Hello, and welcome to another edition of Unbottleneck, the podcast where we solve common digital marketing problems. And today we have a really amazing guest, Andréa Jones, and she's built an online business committed to empowering businesses in utilizing the power of social media in a positive and impactful way without being overwhelmed and drained by it. Today we're going to be talking about a lot of what you can do for social media for small businesses. I've got a ton of questions. Hopefully we're gonna hit some fun and controversial topics. Also, Andréa has over 7 years of experience in the game. 7 years is a lot for doing social media. Some networks didn't even exist 7 years ago, like TikTok, which I can't wait to talk about. She hosts the acclaimed podcast Savvy Social, the Savvy Social podcast. You have to check that out. Subscribe, pause the audio, go subscribe to Savvy Social podcast. She leads a team providing done-for-you services inside of her marketing agency that has been named a top digital marketing agency here in 2021 and serves over 200 students in her Savvy Social School. And by the way, that's about how many students I have right now with my adjunct teaching at UC San Diego and Cal State Fullerton College. So it's cool. We have that in common. We'll have to talk about teaching and what that experience is like as we get into it. You were named one of the Social Report's top marketers to follow, and is the founder of the Savvy Social School and the podcast that we just mentioned. Here's one fun fact too. She met her husband on YouTube. Clearly, she's an expert at building authentic relationships online. All right, we got to start there. Andréa, tell me about that. You met your husband on YouTube?
Yes. And just like we were talking about before the show, I have been on the internet since 2004.
Mm-hmm.
I was blogging. Started my YouTube channel in 2007.
Right.
This is back when all of your friends were like, "That's weird. You're doing a weird thing, putting your life
When
on
it
the
when it
internet,
took an
right?"
hour to upload a video, yeah, right.
Right. So I naturally like the internet, but so with YouTube, I was creating these almost like commentary style videos on my life. My
Yeah.
husband was doing something similar before we were married, comedy style videos. We collaborated on a video together, much like we're interviewing today.
Oh,
And then
cool.
we just kept talking after that. So this was 2013, so about a year before I started the business.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And YouTube was such a weird thing, like you said. And once video started to come out, I mean, it was Daily Motion and Vimeo, and we were
Yeah.
uploading videos all over the place. That was like the thing as part of digital marketing. We used Traffic Geyser to distribute to multiple video sources in one blast. I don't even know if that thing's still around. Probably not, because the
Yeah.
only networks that really matter, I think, now are YouTube and maybe a little bit of Vimeo, right?
Yeah, mostly YouTube, and then obviously newer platforms like TikTok that are kind of disrupting a little bit with the micro video
Yeah.
content, which I know we'll talk
Do you
about.
remember Vidler? Vidler was one of those video networking sites too back in the day. I think it just got too
Yeah,
spam saturated, but long time ago. That was a
there,
2007
there's
thing.
there's quite a few. I remember making friends on one that was like Video Booth or something
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
The old days,
old
the
school.
wild west of digital marketing. Any tool that can
Yeah,
blast or distribute our content all over hell and back was like the thing to do. And then search engines started to say, we don't need all that duplicate content and we're just going to omit it. Like, oh well, none of those great pages and great links and great videos I have are going to get any love. There was a point, by the way, that Mark Robertson and I don't know if you know him from Real SEO back in the day. We were looking at search results, and when somebody would tick him off, he would actually do a video syndication with across those different channels and own the entire first page of Google with video thumbnails for that person's name. And it was this funny thing. He's like, yeah, never mess with a digital marketer. And so back in the day when we could actually have more video thumbnails across different pages, and that was something you could literally saturate the entire first page of Google with back in the day. So anyway,
yeah.
enough war stories, right? Let me go to my first question. You've said that's I'm not quoting you or anything, but you said social media marketing is an unavoidable part of owning an online business in 2021, and that's kind of a super basic thing. So let's start there. How do you define social media marketing, and why is it unavoidable?
Yeah, and I think it goes down to or boils down to what marketing is in the first place, which is really showing up where your ideal clients and customers are hanging out
Yeah.
and hanging out with them. Back in the day, early days, pre internet, this was radio. Radio
Mhm.
shows came out. Families would sit around the radio and listen to the radio as part of their evening entertainment, and there were advertisements that went along with that. Then, same thing with television, same thing with how we listen to radio in our cars today. So, it's a natural evolution of just marketing in general, in my opinion. But when it comes to social media marketing, there's an added
Mhm.
component that's different from a radio or a billboard in the sense that it's a two-way conversation. Now we have dialogue.
Right.
Now we can actually have conversations. And so I actually think as business owners, this gives us such a unique opportunity, way different than advertising was back in the day. And a lot of it is way more
Right.
accessible. As a business owner, you could just for free start up a Facebook page or start up an Instagram account, and you don't have to pay
Right.
hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a spot.
It's true. And there's such a difference between social media advertising and social media marketing. I think when we think about social media marketing, it's how do we have a voice in discussions that are happening online right now? And that's advantage of hashtags and sites like Twitter and so forth, and being a part of those conversations that are happening, following the trending topics as they relate to our business. If there's fun things that people and social platforms are doing, having a voice in that, participating and being a part of it, not to try to sell your product, but to build more awareness that you're there, that you exist, that people know about you. And I love when I see posts from businesses that are really, really visual and fun and interactive, or don't feel like it's something where this business is trying to promote themselves. It feels like these guys are putting out some really fun, helpful, entertaining content that I relate to. And I'm going to follow and I'm going to subscribe to them. And in doing that, now I'm part of an audience that business can now advertise to using paid ads in social media, that I know that I'm going to be interested in because I'm already interested in their organic content. So I think it's great that social media exists for businesses to get out there and have a voice and listen and respond and create some really fun, engaging campaigns. But I also think there's a value benefit in building that audience so that you widen, who sees your content, when you do share it, and you can then pivot toward the advertising piece by targeting specific individuals that already like your content, instead of bidding broad in a marketplace where you don't know what you're going to get. You can focus in after you built your audience on people who are in your target audience. I love that about social media. I don't know. What do you think?
I totally agree. And I think it's so interesting how people are essentially opting in to be advertised to, which is such an interesting concept because
Mhm.
prior to the internet and digital marketing, maybe you got an ad because you were watching a TV show, but you
Mhm.
didn't choose to watch that ad.
Right.
Whereas now, there's a recent ad going around right now that I love from Google, um, showing what life would look like after the pandemic. What are people searching for, right?
Mhm.
And I find it interesting that that is being shared around as a concept, even though it's marketing something. And so that's what I love about social media as well. We're kind of shaking things up and allowing ourselves as business owners to be creative with the content that we are putting out there, not necessarily of that end goal of how many people are going to sign up from this or buy this, but how can we actually have content that's memorable where people naturally want to share it
Yeah.
and tell it to their friends? It's so fun.
And hopefully subscribe and follow and be part of that conversation,
Yeah,
right? So
exactly.
I love that. You're right. I think you nailed it. Um, I also think about it too, and I'm looking at. I was looking at some of the content that you have on your website, and I love your approach in terms of first figure out who you are and what your voice is and what you want to say. Don't worry as much, and I saw this in some of your testimonials. Don't worry as much about what you're going to post, but instead really take the time to figure out who you are and how you want to be known, and that narrative creates at least the foundation of what types of content that you're going to be sharing, as opposed to a lot of businesses are like, oh, I have to do social. Yeah, we're doing Facebook right now. Well, what are you doing? What's your strategy? What's your plan? What are your themes? Who you're trying to attract and define yourself off of. What's your game plan? and a lot of them don't even understand what you're talking about when you ask that follow-up question. So the if you guys, if you haven't been to Andrea's website yet, there's so much free content. It's all, you also had a free boot camp too, which sounds
Yes.
really interesting. I'm definitely going to check that out after we talk today. But do you want to just talk about that for a second? Tell us about the boot camp and some of how you teach others social media marketing.
Yeah. So my approach to social media I find is a little bit different because a lot of content creators and social media marketers out there are teaching things that are really geared towards content creators, essentially, people who are YouTubers or they are Instagrammers, or that's their entire job is to kind of be an influencer on social media. But when it
The
comes to
creator.
business owners, yeah, the creator, business owners I find are a little bit different in that we have so many other things going on that social media is just
Yeah,
one piece
we
of
have a job to do.
that.
We don't want to be creators.
Right?
Yep.
Right? There's only so
Uh,
much time in the day. And so when we kind of subscribe to a lot of this content, it's well intentioned, but it's tough for a business owner to keep up with, multiple
yeah.
posts a day. And should I be on Facebook and Instagram and all of the things? And so my approach is really
Mm.
simplifying that and going really narrow into one specific platform, one avenue, finding what works for you and really tuning into that. And so part of where the boot camp comes from is that there are a lot of people who are feeling overwhelmed. They're looking at Instagram, maybe it's been on their phone for a while, and they're like, you know what? I don't even know if I want to be here. Maybe I just want to delete it and never look at it again, right? Or they open the
I've
app
had
and
that
there's,
feeling.
Instagram Reels, and it's like, okay, so there's now another thing that I have to learn to keep up with. And so a lot of business owners I find are feeling
What
that.
is this
And so this,
Clubhouse? Oh my God, right?
yeah,
Like all these
Clubhouse
things.
too,
Yeah.
which I have mixed feelings about Clubhouse. Like, sidebar,
Yeah.
are you liking
I'm not
Clubhouse?
worried about it. I think another network has sort of picked up on what people like out of Clubhouse, and I think those Android folks have already started to assimilate over there. So I'm not worried about it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I struggled with liking it. But with this boot camp that I created, it's really for those business owners who feel like they're being pulled in a million different directions. They want to be on Instagram and they want to focus on building a habit around using it as a marketing tool
Nice.
instead of just logging in and not even understanding what they're supposed to be doing. So it's a 5-day challenge really geared towards that. And it's all about habit building. Yes, we can get creative and we can like play around with the new features like Instagram Reels, but my approach to social media is really forming boundaries for yourself
Sure.
that can last without having to be a content creator.
Right. Do these core things every day, build a habit and a repetition, and you'll have satisfied the basic things that you need to be able to do on social. And like you said, if you want to go crazy and do a fun creative campaign or something, great, but at least the core things that you should be doing, you're doing. I love that approach. It's so simple. It's great. I can't wait to check out the boot camp for sure. Well, I have a ton of other questions. I keep going off on these tangents. I apologize. Next question that we had was, business owners come to the table with a wide range of social media skills and know-how. Where do you start with newbies who have not really given a strong push to social media and their business and their brand? What platforms do you get them up and running with first?
Yeah. So right now, as we're recording this, I would recommend Instagram.
Okay.
For a lot of business owners, it's a great place to start, not only because it's almost like 6 platforms in one.
Yeah.
So if you don't like one part of it, you could use a different part without having to recreate your account or anything like that. But I also like Instagram for business owners because of the growth potential. 3, 4 years ago, I would have said Facebook, hands down. But now it's Instagram, and it's because of the ability as a business owner to connect with your ideal client, which is really challenging if you were to start a Facebook page today without using any paid advertising. So that's my
Right.
go-to recommendation for the newbies is Instagram.
And small bite-sized chunks in Instagram too. You're not creating these very long form content posts. You're not creating something that requires a lot of time or engagement effort on the part of the viewer. They're just basically flipping through and seeing little bite-sized chunks of things. And if you capture their attention, it's a easy way to get them to subscribe, and then eventually advertise to them or remarket to them after they've engaged with something that you've done organically. I love that. And Instagram's It's so simple too. It's not like Facebook where you've got 20 different things you could do, from groups and communities and pages. It's just Instagram. And maybe you can go over to Reels and watch videos or whatever, but beyond that, there's not a lot to think about in terms of what you want to be doing. I'd say one disadvantage of Instagram is search seems really limited in terms of trying to find specific content. Sometimes in social media, I'm looking for certain things, and I feel like Facebook, I can find those things a little bit easier. So I'm searching for something, I might end up going back over to Facebook. But if I'm just consuming content, just taking a tangent break, just want something to flip through to get my mind off something, Instagram is for sure the way to go. I love that tip. So for newbies, check out Instagram. And I think if you decide to do some ads through Instagram, that happens still through the Facebook ad manager. And it's something that you could, I think Dennis Yu talks about this a lot, right? Dennis, he has this thing where it's like $1 a day. Just put $1 a day into some ads and do some targeting. And, maybe in a month or two, you up it to $2 or $3 as you start to see results come in. And eventually you'll have ads dialed in. You'll understand it, know it, be able to remarket to people, potential consumers. You'll be building audiences. In a few years from now, your Facebook advertising will be really dialed in and based a lot on what you've been able to get from your organic efforts. I love that. Anything else for newbies, for new folks that are a little bit scared of jumping in? Instagram, I think, is a great starting point too. But
Yes. And you know what I love about Instagram as well is that you can really tap into your own preference. So, as a business owner, a lot of us either like writing or we like speaking. So, on the latter. I like to speak my thoughts and my ideas. And so, I tend to go towards podcasting and video and that sort of thing. And there's a space for that on Instagram. If you
right,
tend to be the type of person who, doesn't want to be on camera or you much rather write out something, there's a space for that on Instagram too. And even in the main Instagram feed, if you don't want to post photos of yourself, you can use a tool like Canva.com to create a graphic. It still can be text based, and you can still post using your words written down instead of speaking them. So one of the things I do recommend for newbies is figuring out what your preference is. Do you rather write? Would you rather speak? And then if that is your preference, kind of build your strategy around that. Because if I told you today, you got to do video every single day, but you hate being on video, you're probably going to be like, yeah, I'm not going to listen to her, and you're never going to do social media. And so leaning into your preference as a new person, I think, is such a powerful strategy. And then you can, tweak it from there. You can improve your caption writing skills. You can test out some of the other features like Instagram Reels. But all of that
right.
is based on your preference, and that's really where it should start.
I love it. And one thing that we've suggested too for businesses is start curating. If there's content that you follow, that you subscribe to, that you think really adds value to your business, it probably adds value to people who follow you as well. So you could curate content and share from what other people are saying, so that those people who do follow you say, "Hey, this person shares really good content." You don't always have to come up with your own, even though I at least try to do something of your own every day. But when you can't or you don't have time, curate something that you think is helpful. It's easy. It's a quick share and done, right?
Yep, yep. And I would end on this thought, which is social media is a reflection of what's happening inside of your business.
It's true.
So if you ever get stuck on what to say, think about the things that are happening every day in your business. Did
Yeah.
did someone ask a question? Turn that into a social media post. Did you launch a new service or product? Turn that into a social media post.
Did you get
And I
an
think that
interesting
also,
review?
yeah, interesting
Uh-huh.
reviews. Anything in the news too. I get a lot of questions about, especially in the past 12 months. People are like, there's a lot happening in the news. Do I talk about it on social media? And if you don't talk about it in your business, with your
Mhm.
team or with your clients and customers, then no, I don't think you should talk about it or need to talk about it on social
Right.
media. But if it's a part of your business, if it's a part of the conversation, then absolutely. And so just think about it as a mirror. Like social media is reflecting whatever is happening currently in your business. And I think that can like cause a little bit of relief.
And there's also some good data that can come out of that too. If you look into your own database of what's working, what your customers like or don't like. If you sell if you're Apple and you sell iPhones, and you know that users like a certain feature, don't like a certain feature, or if you know that if 70% of your buyers are female versus male, and you have that kind of data to share, people love that. People love insights. They love the did you know? Hey, did you know that 70% of people who use iPhones it's a conversation starter, and people love that kind of thing. So if you've got anything in your own business, like the customer support questions, I thought was awesome. We use that a lot as well. Like, what are people asking about our product or service or industry? But if there's data that you have from what you know about your clients, that doesn't get into any sort of privacy issues where you're just saying, hey, did you know most of our clients have this attribute? That's something people find interesting. So if you've got data, share it, make it funny, make it silly, use Fiverr and create a cartoon animation or something, to create interesting content. I love that. It's such a great idea. You did put emphasis on using social media correctly. Can you walk us down that path of incorrect use? What doesn't work, the time wasters, and what really leads to social media burnout, and how to make that shift toward seeing better results?
Yes. I think burnout comes from comparison,
Yeah.
where people feel like they need to keep up with, their competitor or someone else they see on social media. And it goes back to that concept of social media being a reflection,
Well,
being a
if I
mirror.
can't be Neil Patel, I don't want to do videos.
Exactly. Exactly. And then you try so hard and you spend so much time creating that Neil Patel style video. And so you're missing out on other opportunities because you sunk all of your time into that one thing that, you're essentially trying to copy somebody.
Sure. So
Um,
so it's
so I
a
think
it's a marathon in that you're racing against your last best time versus racing against other people.
Ooh, yes, I love that. That's exactly what it is. You're comparing yourself to yourself. You're not
Right.
really
Comparing
looking
against
around at
others.
everything else.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's what makes social media fun, honestly, is that unique little twist that we all have. Every single business is different, every single person is different.
Mhm.
And if you just lean into that, I think that's, where you'll see the most bang for your buck. But the other area where I see a lot of business owners kind of struggle with the burnout piece is they turn into content machines
Mm.
where they feel like they have to post all of this content all the
Oh, yeah.
time, and so they feel like at the end of the month, man, I produced all this content and what do I have to show for it?
Right.
And I think especially now there's a shift away from just content for content's sake, not
Mhm.
creating a post just for the
We've been
sake of
saying that in
creating
the
a
SEO
post.
world forever. Look, if you're not going to create the most amazing, best, high-ranking page, don't waste your time, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And to piggyback off of that too, some of the best content does start off as something more foundational like a blog post or
Mhm.
a YouTube video or some sort of content piece that is searchable and lives in that format, and then
Right.
you're just re-amplifying it on social media. So if you've got a super long post about I don't know, the value of a above ground pool, I'm just making
Sure.
something up,
Uh-huh.
then maybe one social media post is about the pool liner and it leads back to
Right.
that super long blog post, or one social media post is about above ground versus in ground pools and then it leads back to that blog post. So you can use that foundational content on social media, and really it reduces the amount of content that you have to create because again social media is just a reflection of what's happening, so you don't actually have to
Sure.
create anything new for social media. Just have it kind of reflect some of the other things that you're doing in your business.
I love that. There's two things too I think about when I look at what mistakes businesses have made with social, and I think that's part of it is just like you said, just posting for the sake of posting, and people see that and they're just like, this is repetitive and it's boring and it's we already know this. Why are you sharing this? I think that's a big mistake. I think another one is sometimes just hiring an agency that won't take the time to really understand their brand instead of just taking the time to in-house and have somebody there who can start chipping away at it and becoming that person who's the voice. A lot like the Wendy's Twitter person back in the day. Remember, she was brutal, but at the same time, it was so fun and it was so engaging, and everybody knew it was just a fun thing. Something that I think is an alternative that businesses can think about is looking at what others are saying about their brand. We're doing that right now with both our Applebee's and IHOP brands that we work with. From an SEO standpoint, we're looking at the things that they're saying and questions that they have about the brand. But Disneyland right now, one of the top searches is Disneyland moving to Texas. Well, there's nothing on the Disneyland website about moving to Texas, but thousands of people are searching for it. what a great content opportunity. Even if they're not moving to Texas, they could create a page and drive people to that page, solving the question of, is Disneyland moving to Texas? With IHOP and Applebee's, they're asking questions about their product, recipes, calorie information. They have all these things that they're asking about that aren't represented on the website. So it's like, well, let's get something represented on the website, and let's create some sort of social content for that. Maybe just use our Open Graph data within our webpage. So all we have to do is just share the webpage itself, and it'll automatically show the image and the text that we want to have in that post, so that we can address questions people have about our brand and our business. I love that approach. The other one is just looking at the fun tools like answerthepublic.com. Put in your brand name and your company name in that tool and see what questions people have, the what, why, how, where, who about your company and your business. That's people have an interest in those. At Jacuzzi, what was interesting was this person would go around and he'd buy jacuzzis or go to one of the or hot tubs or go to one of the hot tub manufacturers. They'd bring one out and he would literally take it apart and look at all the different components and parts and pieces and talk about whether it's a good thing or a bad thing or the problems it had. And it got like thousands of views. And it's like, well, why not create some of that content ourselves? Take apart our own product and talk about the different components and why they're important, and do those kind of fun videos. Look at what people are saying and what's trending that people really pay attention to in your industry around your type of product or service, and then emulate it, but specifically to your version of it. I think that's something, you're right, businesses just look inside at what relates to your business and what other people are saying about your product and service. I think that's such a great idea. Do you have any favorite glowing examples of brands that have just nailed it? I'll give you mine in a second, but what are your favorite, those that just nailed it in social media?
Yes, and honestly, I'm seeing so many brands do well because of the attention placed on digital marketing
Yeah.
and connecting online in the pandemic, because of the kind of like global situation we're all in.
Right.
But where I'm seeing my most favorite examples is actually in my town where I live. I live in Fort
Okay.
Erie, near
Right.
in Canada, and one of the local businesses, Trailside's a little bar here locally, is
Okay.
crushing it on social media because they are almost making fun of the situation in themselves by still bringing humor and interesting content and still talking about like their daily specials and deals and things like that. So, one of the things that they started doing because of the pandemic is basically selling beer to go, which, most people wouldn't do, generally speaking. So it's kind of making fun of this like beer to go idea on social media. But honestly, it's working. People are sharing it, liking and commenting. And it's such a fun way to be present, understand the local audience, and still promote your
Right.
offer.
I love that. I don't have any really good small business examples, but my favorite social media campaigns, I loved what Aura Brush did back in the day. I know it's an older example, but when they got that film student for what, $300, and they got in front of a green screen at the college, and enlisted uh, folks that are trying to get their degree in film to do a video, and they had fun with it, and they got goofy, and it got over 1 million views. I thought that was really brilliant. And then they started to create a story around that, and that story carried over into their campaign over the years. And one little brush, like tongue brush, was being seen by millions of people. My other favorite was the Old Spice guy, and one of the things I
Yeah.
liked about the Old Spice guy, he'd send a towel, and he'd be all at attention, and I'm the Old Spice guy, and people recognized him because of the commercials, of course. But what I liked about the campaign was that he antagonized other influencers. And in one, my favorite example is Alyssa Milano. He's holding roses, and he's got a pen with a whole feather on it. And he's like, Alyssa Milano, I'm writing you a love letter right now, and blah, 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 blah. And he actually sent her flowers. So Alyssa Milano gets on her Tumblr account, and she has the flowers in the background, and she's in a towel, and she's like, Old Spice guy, right? And she starts responding to him, and he immediately got in front of her entire audience. And I thought that was genius, because it wasn't just, I'm going to push out fun interactive content, but I'm going to antagonize somebody who's in the industry, or in an audience that I want to be a part of. And for them, it's anyone, because it's deodorant, right? But I'm going to be in front of an audience that I'd like to get a piece of. And so by doing that, it's almost a brilliant way to draw the attention of someone. And because he already had so many followers, by not responding, when she saw that, she'd know, hey, a lot of my followers follow this guy too. If I don't respond, I look stupid. So I thought that was genius. Those are my two: the Old Spice guy and then the Aura Brush. I think are my two favorite. And I don't think any small business, can do something that's at scale as that. But I think the idea of doing something involving influencers and getting in front of those audiences, eventually something's going to kick in. As long as you're following the people that you feel are thought leaders and influencers in your industry, you're engaging with them, on some of their posts over time. And then at some point you might tag them in a post and they say, you know what, this person's been following me and engaging with me, is one of my top influencers for or followers for the last 6 months. I'm going to do them a favor, and they might decide to share or to comment or do something that really brings you out in front of their audience. I think that's something a small business could do, provided they know who those influencers are in their specific industry. We know, for plumbers, right, it's going to be the guy that does all the how-to plumbing stuff, right? So I think there's something that they can do there, to start absorbing larger audiences by participating in those that relate to an influencer.
Yeah.
I'm rambling.
And I'm actually, oh, sorry.
No,
I
go ahead.
want to add to that and bring up TikTok, because I think that
Yes.
TikTok is actually such an amazing collaboration opportunity for a lot of business owners because of the nature of the app. I like cooking, so I follow a lot of like cooking videos, and Gordon Ramsay, of course,
Yep.
is on the app, and he's
My daughter's a culinary
responding.
student, so she's there with you.
Yeah, so she
Yeah.
probably sees these videos where he's responding to people making things. And I think if you're an up and
It's
coming
so
chef,
funny
if you
too.
yeah, if you can get him to respond to something, I mean, that's a massive
He's
opportunity.
basically
And it's kind of
roasting
the
you,
nature
right? As
of
I
the app.
recall.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
Some of the people he roasts, some of the people he starts off roasting, then he's like, oh, I think that's actually a good idea. So it could go either way. But either way, I think to have someone like that add
Mhm.
commentary to what you're doing is such an interesting thing. And because of the nature of the app, where you are encouraged to like duet videos with folks
Uh-huh.
or respond to videos in this way, I think there's such a massive opportunity for people.
Yep, and I can tell you my kids are on that app. My youngest in particular, she's constantly on TikTok, and to the point where we have to monitor it because it was at a point where, when school was out for spring break or whatever, we'd see, what, 6 hours. You're on this thing for six. What are you doing? 6 hours? How do you even? But that's their way to consume content. They don't watch movies like we do. They don't do a lot of the outdoor things right now because of pandemic. So they're on this TikTok act. And I know a lot of businesses are like, I'm not going to do TikToks. That's for kids and teens. But then I see Will Smith on there. I freaking love Will Smith's content. He's so good. He's like pointing up at stuff and he's got things to say. He's doing this. And then what was it? John Travolta and his wife did this
Yeah.
dance thing. And I don't know. I think it's for everybody. I think if you find the folks that you want to follow, you don't have to follow those crazy TikTokers that are doing the Dua Lipa dances and stuff, right? You can absolutely follow those people that are the actors and celebrities that you grew up enjoying, their movies and stuff with. They're creating content. They're on there. Corey Feldman was a big fan of Corey Feldman as a kid, and he's out there creating content. So I think you're right. I think TikTok is a perfect example of a place that a business can start to have a presence and be silly and fun, without pushing too much sales, but at the same time have a voice and hopefully build a following. Um, I got three more questions for you. I think three more. I know we're running short on time, but this has been so much fun. By the way, thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
My next question, what emphasis do you put on going the distance beyond traditional posts and really diving in with Instagram Reels and Facebook Stories and similar? What should business owners and brands know about using these additional functions, or should they even worry about them?
Yeah, so I do recommend focusing on the primary feeds first. So when
Okay.
we're thinking about Facebook, when we're thinking about Instagram, even Twitter with the fleets now, you're thinking about your main feed content
Mhm.
first. And I do recommend committing to that for at least 60 days, maybe even 90
Okay.
days, getting really
Building the
comfortable with like
habit.
practicing building that
Hmm.
habit. And then you can explore the new features. And I do recommend exploring these at some point, because the platforms want you to use them. So right now, Instagram really wants people to use Instagram Reels. And so whenever you
Yep,
do,
I
you're
did a reel and I
rewarded.
got more engagement than I'd ever gotten, and I was like, I didn't even know what reels was, and like, "Hey, do you wanna create a reel?" I'm like, "Sure," and I did one of, like, a sunrise when we were in Cancun, and I did the slow motion
Mm,
sunrise thing, and I was like,
yeah, I think it's
"Whoa, people really pay attention to this." No, it wasn't, it was because Instagram wanted to show it, because they
right.
don't have a lot of content creators for that new feature. You're right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're essentially also with the Instagram Reels, they're putting this content back into the realm of discoverability. So social media kind of shifted in the past couple of years to, if you want to follow someone, you follow them, then you see their content. It's not
Mhm.
like you log on to an app, like I think of something like a Tumblr or a Stumble Upon, where you log on and you're just, what am I going to see today? You're
Oh my
mostly seeing
god,
things
stumble
from
upon, I
people
haven't
you
seen
don't
that in
follow.
years.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
And so with Reels, there's a section now in the app where you can go and just scroll through content from people you don't follow. And in fact, most of the
yep.
content in that Reels feed is from people you don't follow. So that means
I'm glad you
people who
brought that
don't
up because
follow
I thought
you
something was
are,
wrong with the app when I was in there. I'm like, "I don't follow any of these people. Why am I seeing their videos?" And then I found
yeah.
myself hitting follow on 'em, like, "Love this travel thing. Oh, I love that travel thing." And I'm, like, following all these new pages and new profiles. So
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. I thought something was
Yeah.
maybe wrong with the app. Huh.
No, it's designed that way, and it's really to echo TikTok because TikTok's algorithm is one of the best social media algorithms I've seen in a while. They
Mhm.
really got it customized. It takes about a couple days, but after you start scrolling through and watching and interacting with videos, they'll
Yep.
deliver you the exact right content. And so Instagram is trying to compete with that with the reels. And so it's going to show your videos to other people. So as a business owner, where the opportunity is
Mhm.
creating content that could potentially get in front of people who have never heard of you, never seen you before. They didn't ask for this content, but now it's in front of them.
Right.
So what are they going to do with it? And so I think as a business owner, especially if you have been, flexing those muscles of building the habits of creating great content, then there's a
Mhm.
massive opportunity to get your content in front of people who've never heard of you before, but now they're just like you said, hitting that follow button like, "Oh, I want to see more of this."
Yeah, but if you're doing it right away, they'll go back and look at some of your posts and be like, these guys aren't even really posting anything. Why would I want to follow them?
Mhm.
So you're right, you're building up that foundation first. So when they do start to scope you out a bit before they follow you, they realize that you do create content often and are a business or a person that they want to follow. I love that. It's a great approach. Build
Yeah,
that
and part
foundation first and then extend to some of the other features. Yeah.
Yeah, and part of the habit too is creating content is just like any other practice. The first time you do it, you're probably going to be bad. That's okay. But the more you do it, the better you'll get. And so, just like anything, if you're practicing baseball, if you're practicing yoga, you've got to keep practicing. And so, that's part of why I want business owners to practice creating this content as well, because you will get better at it. You'll become more skilled at creating content. So when you do create something like a reel and it does show up in a bunch of people's feeds, you've been doing this for a while. So the content's probably going to be better than the very first time you post on the app.
Better
So
and
I
better
think
and
that
better.
that practice piece, yeah, helps you develop those skills.
Awesome. That segues kind of into our next question too. And we just talked about reels, and I think this might be part of that answer. And this is a big one we get a lot too. And we had this from one of our retail clients said, "Hey, a magazine that is in our industry has 50,000 Instagram followers, and we've got like 800. How do we get 50,000 Instagram followers like this other guy? And he's sharing all the same type of content that we have. So for small businesses, how do I get followers on Instagram? Is Reels the right way to extend, or what's the getting follower magic?
Yeah. I wish I could say there was like a magic button that you press and then the followers rain
Tell
down,
you what
but
not to do,
um
right? Don't use software to buy or get
yeah.
followers for sure. That's just gonna look so obvious, right?
It does look obvious
Yeah.
and you'll get penalized. Like Instagram is
Mhm.
picking up on this quite quickly. And you can potentially damage the credibility of your account with
Right.
Instagram itself. But getting followers is twofold. You've got to have the great content. You've got to have an account that people actually want to follow. So taking a step back and looking at this and going, am I just advertising or am I building a community? right? And so
Right.
you've got to be able to answer that question. If it's just a bunch of ads, why would someone want to follow that? Right? They
Mm,
already get ads in their feed that people pay to put in their feed. So why would they want to follow you? So that's the
yeah.
one piece of it. But the second piece of social, especially for small businesses, is participating in the community. So online networking, essentially. So as a
Mm,
small business, let's say you even are a business that's locally based and a lot of your clients are local, then you want
right.
to show up on other pages, other accounts, liking, commenting, engaging, and following. And
Yeah.
Gary Vee calls this the $1.80 method, where you're gonna just spend, if every post is a penny, let's say, you're going to start spreading
Mhm.
that around to everywhere. Really making sure that you're focusing on quality. And one of my favorite ways to do this is go to an account who's not a competitor, but someone who is well known in this space and leave a thoughtful
Sure.
comment. Because a lot of people actually read the comments, right? I don't know about if
Mhm.
you do this, but when I see a good
Oh,
post,
yeah.
I head straight to the comments to see what everyone else is saying. So, if as a business
Yep.
owner, if you're there contributing to the conversation, you're feeding into that natural curiosity that we have as humans. If they see, the Wendy's comments are a great example of this. They're basically like chirping other people on Twitter, and then more
I
people
haven't
are
looked. Are they
finding
still
them.
doing that? They were really
I
heavy on that for a while, but yeah.
They
The
were, and
original
even
girl who did
Taco
it
Bell
left,
was
I
doing
think.
it for a
So,
while, but
okay.
I don't think they've been doing it lately. But
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of opportunity for business owners to contribute to the community. You don't have to like
Mhm.
create a whole comedic persona if that's not you.
Yep.
But even just showing up and being of service, leaving a thoughtful comment, contributing to the conversation goes a long way for
Sure.
business owners.
We ran a show for a little while, not very many episodes, where we were doing something called Search and Sip, and it was basically us old fat guys sitting on a couch or in a conference room, talking about search. And what we would do is we would get a coffee from a different local coffee shop, not a Starbucks, but like a legit local business, like a mom and pop shop. And so we'd give them a shout out, and we'd sample different flavors of coffee, and then we talk about SEO. And it was neat because we got some really good feedback from the coffee shops for sharing and mentioning them in our videos. Built a nice little relationship with them, and we got to do something we enjoyed, which was drinking coffee. so so that was one way. The other thing that we've seen our clients do that helped SEO as well in that same area, is do something like a local event, like a blood drive, or one of our clients did a CPR class, and they promoted that to other local businesses and said, "Hey, we'd love to have you come in and have some of your customers come in if they want to do this free CPR class, at our law office here." And those sites, those businesses would share and link to the page on the website where the event took place. So we got some links out of it, helped move up our map position because we had more mentions of our name, address, and phone number, and it was great social media content that the other brands would be sharing about us, and that we would thank them for doing that. That was a neat little way that helped both social and organic search and local search, by doing something with the community. It's so easy to do compared to spending $20,000-$30,000 on billboards, where you could just go next door and say, "Hey neighbor, let's do something," right? So
Yes,
yeah,
that
it's
goes
much
such a
easier.
long way. So it's taking that concept and like applying it to social media, and it pretty much can work for any platform. I would say Facebook's the most challenging one. It's still possible though, but Twitter, and Instagram, even TikTok, like we talked about, there are
Right.
a lot of ways to show up and network on those platforms that really can show that you're part of a big community and you're not just there to like make money. You
To
know.
make money, yeah, it's always so obvious too, like you said. What are one or two questions that you get asked the most often, by the way, about social media?
One of the most popular ones I've been getting lately is how much of like myself as a business owner should I put on social media?
Mm,
So a lot of people, they don't want to show their breakfast, what they ate this morning, or show off their outfits or whatever the
right.
case may
Keep your
be.
personal and business separate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough though because that's what you see when you log on, right?
Right.
Um, so one of the things I recommend for that is focusing on being personable without showing your personal life.
Mm,
Um, so as business owners, you can talk as a human would, right? You don't have to use big $10 words or anything like that. You can show off things like your office space or your warehouse or your products, and use storytelling to connect with people. It doesn't necessarily have to be your personal life, and you can draw wherever that line is for you personally, you can draw that line.
Right.
And I happen to be a very private person now after putting my life online for over 10 years. I met my husband online and
Yeah.
everything. The past 7-ish years, 6-ish years, I've really pulled back a lot on that, because I don't feel comfortable with it anymore.
Mm.
And so for me, people feel like they know me because one of my dogs, Gibson, is, I mean, he's pretty cute. People like him. And I post about him a lot. So people feel like
Right
they
on.
know me because I use Gibson to give advice. But I don't share my personal life. I honestly don't log on the weekends or anything like that. And so that's my
Yeah,
way
I've
of
been
being
scaling back
personal.
myself.
Yeah. What was that?
So I've been doing the same myself, scaling back quite a
Yeah.
bit. Of course, I had to
Yeah.
post my favorite pictures from New Orleans, but beyond that, over the weekend, I really don't. I'm trying to spend my weekends now where I can with my family, or on one of my hobbies or projects, and something that hopefully is going to develop into something I can give back to posterity. That will look back and say, "Hey, I could have done something for the next generation." But I decided I would just be on social media all weekend. It's like if you got the weekends, do something that you're passionate about. Don't be flipping through TikTok for 6 hours, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if you want to post, you still can, but I would say wait till Monday. Like if you snapped a picture of your project that you worked over the weekend, wait till Monday and draw a line between, how you choose to show up as a business owner, or tell a story about, how hard work paid off for you, and then tie it into your work. I mean, there's a lot we could do there without
Yeah,
having to be quote unquote on all the time.
yeah, that makes sense. Anything else that you think might be helpful for small businesses thinking about doing social media before I go into my lightning round of questions?
Yes. So I'm a huge fan of not having notifications turned on.
Okay.
I find, again, as business owners, it's different than being a content creator where you live and
Mhm.
breathe all of the app's content.
Yep.
As business owners, we have to like manage our team and order products and balance the books and all the things that we do as business owners. And so I suggest turning off the notifications, but giving yourself dedicated time for social media. So this
Yep.
doesn't mean like pretending it doesn't exist. But so I use Asana for task management, and I just have a task in Asana that's like check Facebook,
I've used
check
it.
Instagram. Yep.
Uh-huh. I my
And
way
it
my
really
notifications are
helps.
turned off too. So it took me a while to
Yes.
figure that one out, but once I turn notifications off, now I control when I want it. And it wasn't Social Dilemma the movie, but when I saw the movie, I was like, yeah, that's exactly why I turn my notifications off. If you haven't seen the Social Dilemma, I think that's still worthwhile looking at. I hope it doesn't turn you off from doing social media, but social media is where our consumers are, so I think we have to keep it on. But I don't think you need your notifications. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, it was the book Digital Minimalism.
Hmm.
And great book. I think it's Cal Newport is the author.
Okay.
Um, it's all about, social media honestly is designed to be addictive, number one. Like that's how they make their money is the longer you spend on the app, the more ads they can show you. It's
Right.
fairly simple. But as business owners and even just as human beings, we can choose that option. And a lot of us aren't making that choice. We're letting ourselves being carried away by all of these things. So I even just got a new phone. First thing I did was like, I'm logged into everything, turn off all the
Turned off
notifications.
notifications. That's awesome. It's so
Yeah.
brilliant. Well, cool. Well, thank you. I definitely have some lightning rounds for you, and then we'll wrap
Okay.
up. Question
Yeah.
number one: what tools should users be looking at to help them with social media? What are your favorite tools?
Yeah, so Planoly, if you're on Instagram, is a
Okay.
good one. I love that one. You can also cross post to other platforms like Facebook and Twitter.
Never heard of that.
But it's great for like organizing your thoughts for Instagram. It's got some great
Okay.
analytics.
It's called
Um,
Planoly.
Planoly, yes,
Planoly. Okay,
Planoly.
that's a new one.
Yes. And then if you want to get more complex into content management,
Hmm.
I am loving Airtable right now. I have a
Okay.
bunch of videos on my YouTube channel about how I organize this.
Hmm.
I basically organize my whole business using Airtable,
One
but
one of
part of
our
it is
vendors
my
has us on it.
content.
They're using Airtable, and so we're working on projects, and we're seeing what they're doing through Airtable. That's great.
It's so fun. So definitely check it out.
Cool. And is Hootsuite and Sprout Social, are they still relevant, or do you feel that they're more for larger enterprises now?
I think Hootsuite's great for their free option. I think you can have three profiles connected. They are moving towards more agencies and
Mhm.
enterprise models.
I
So
figured
for
as
small
much.
businesses, it may be a bit too much. If you are an agency, I do love Sprout Social. Their
Right.
analytics are great and they do everything.
Yep, all that syndication work. All right, who should we be following on social aside from you, of course?
Oh, this is such a
You
great
mentioned Gary
question.
Vee earlier. He was getting a little overkill for me, so I think I slowed down looking at Gary Vee content.
Gary Vee's intense. I like his message, but small doses. Small doses. Um, I'm loving a lot of the like content marketer, community marketing field. So,
Okay.
um, Pat Flynn is a great community builder. And I've just been observing the way that he approaches his business. I think
Okay.
it's fascinating. He's very much people first.
Okay.
I really love that. And then I also love Amy Porterfield and the work that she does with content marketing and course creating and course building. So that's who I'm paying attention to currently. Not sure if it's relevant for the small business conversation, but that's kind of where my mind went.
No worries. That's awesome. Okay, measurement. What's your favorite way to measure results from social media? And is there a platform or a tool or something that you use to measure how you're performing, or you just manually log into each site and look?
Yes. And can you hear my dogs? Or
Barely,
no?
barely.
Okay. So one of my favorite tools to use for this is Fan Booster.
Okay.
And I put my analytics into a few different buckets. So I like to look at just overall engagement. So
Mhm.
how are people connecting with the content? But I also like to look at intent.
Right.
So it is really hard to like draw a line in the sand from, people saw my post and then they came into my store, whatever the case may be. And so I like to look at intent. Did they visit the website? Did they click links? How long did the people, from Instagram stay on the website? And so for me, I like to dig into Google Analytics and look at all of those beautiful data pieces, especially intent. So I want to see, how many people took action based on what I posted, and that can
Okay.
vary depending on the post as well. So if you post something that's promotional, then people probably may not like and comment on that. They'll probably go do the thing you asked them to do. And so also breaking it down at the
Yeah.
post level to see, how people are engaging with the content.
Sure. And you mentioned a few metrics too that I think might work as KPIs. If a business is looking at ways that they measure those key performance indicators, you could say, hey, you know what, our average engagement rate in January was X percent. Let's work toward by next January having that up to Y percent. Or maybe it's followers. Hey, we're averaging about this many followers per month. So based on that, we should set a goal to have this many followers by the end of the year, organically, of course. We don't want to buy followers or anything, but at least in setting some goals. That's something I notice a lot of businesses forget to do as they're starting to work on and chip away at digital marketing. They don't set specific goals, when they first start out. Where are we now, and where do we want to be? For a lot of businesses who are listening, you haven't even started yet, so your baseline's easy; it's zero. But for those that have been doing it for a while, look at those metrics. Look at Google Analytics. Look at, was it Fan Bucket?
Fan booster.
Fan Booster. Okay. I knew
Yeah.
there was a B in there somewhere. Very
Yes,
cool.
I
Awesome.
love
Well,
it.
well, great. And you do have a program. I noticed you have that boot camp going. What are some ways that people could really kind of get the most out of all the content that you've been putting out? What do you recommend, or where do you recommend they start?
Yes.
With all that great work that you put into it.
Yes. So I actually have a free course that is a really good place to start.
Okay.
It helps small businesses and online business owners build out a strategy that works for them. So it takes you step by step through creating content and managing and growing your accounts. But you can
Nice.
find it at onlinedrea.com/free, FREE. It's
Awesome.
at the bottom of the website too. If you just go to the website, it's in the footer. And it really walks you through just being intentional with social media without being overwhelmed by it.
That's awesome. And everybody loves free stuff. So you're
Yes.
crazy if you're listening to this and you don't check out that free URL that we just mentioned. Andrea, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. And I was a lot of fun. I've learned a lot about what local businesses and small businesses need to do. And I'd love to do this again with you sometime. And maybe we can drill into a specific platform and share some funny stories and case studies if you're up for it at some point. I know we have a lot going on these days, but we'd love to have you again.
Yes, I'd love to come back on the show again. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And thanks, guys. We'll wrap it up for today and we'll see you on the next episode.